Hello and welcome to this final first look exploring session looking at an humorous day's Mirth by George Chapman, a play that we've been enjoying generally so far. As with any comedy, especially comedy where some people are doing naughty things as opposed to people just doing funny things, how it ends is going to really depend on how much we enjoy this play. Because if it lands in the wrong way, then that takes all the fun out of the evening, and everyone just goes home depressed. Thing about comedies, gotta be funny. Got to be funny, unless it's not that kind of comedy. But that's more earlier in history. We got to the point now where if you're calling it a comedy, we expect laughs now. So, tough. Genres are starting to fix. So, continuing our journey through An Humorous Day's Mirth, we have assembled a fairly large room for this end of the play. There may still, however, be some clashes where people will change randomly to silly voices to denote which character they are at any given moment. But hopefully it should flow reasonably well with the numbers we have in the room. So, reading today, Berger and Queen is...
Steve Longstaffe, retired academic in the northwest of England.
Reading Foyes and Catalian is...
Francis Cox, actor coming at you from Amsterdam.
Reading The Countess is...
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu, and I'm coming to you from Romford.
Reading The King today is...
Hello, my name's Lynn Freitas. I'm a teacher. I wish I were retired. Coming to you from the northwestern United States.
Reading Verone is...
Briony Sparrow. I also wish I was retired in Lincolnshire.
Reading Martia and Jaques is...
Hello, I'm Helen Good. I'm a retired historian. That means I'm still a historian, but nobody pays me.
Reading Lemot is...
Alan, confused in Suffolk.
Reading Labervele and Boy is...
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm a writer, so no one pays me anyway.
Reading Florilla and Dowsecer is...
Rachael, I guess also wishing for the day I retire on the East Coast.
Reading Moren and Labesha is...
Lois, another retired academic, living in a not very retired way in London.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'm never going to retire. I'm just going to have to keep slogging away until death takes me. And so on... That's our generation, folks. Without further ado, on that note, we're going to dive into scene 9. We have just left the interior of the Ordinary, where many of the characters have been doing all sorts of comedy business. Lemot has been setting up all sorts of plates spinning, whereby people are going to start being annoyed with each other in quite dramatic fashion, and in a sense it's a bit of a shame we're starting here because we probably need to start with a bit of a bit of oomph from where we've gone, but we'll see how well it flows. Some clashes may occur as we go, but hopefully it will be reasonably clear. Enter Labervele, Foyes, Labesha, and the Countess.
Where be these Puritans, these murderers? Let me come in here.
Where is the strumpet?
Where is this harlot? Let us come in here.
What shall we do? The streets do wonder at us, and we do make our shame known to the world. Let us go complain to the king.
Come, Labesha, will you go?
No, I scorn to go. No king shall hear my plaint. I will in silence live, a man forlorn, mad, and melancholy as a cat, and never more wear hatband on my hat.
And exit Labesha and some others. Enter Moren and Martia.
What dost thou mean? Thou must not hang on me.
Oh, good Lord Moren, have me home with you. You may excuse all to my father for me.
Enter Lemot.
Oh, my lord, be not so rude to leave her now.
Lass, man, and if my wife should see it, I were undone.
And we can assume that Moren and Martia exit. Enter the king and others.
Pursue them, sirs, and taking Martia from him, convey her presently to Valere's house.
Exeunt King and others. Enter Florilla the Puritan to Lemot.
What villain was it that hath uttered this?
Why, 'twas even I. I thank you for your gentle terms. You give me villain of the first. I wonder where's this old doter. What, doth he think we fear him?
O monstrous man, what, wouldst thou have him take us?
Would I, quoth you? Yea, by my troth would I. I know he is but gone to call the constable to raise the streets.
What means this man, trow? Is he mad?
No, I know what to do. I do it of purpose. I long to see him come and rail at you, to call you harlot, and to spurn you too. Oh, you'll love me a great deal the better, and yet let him come, and if he touch but one thread of you, I'll make that thread his poison.
I know not what to say.
Speak, do you love me?
Yea, surely do I.
Why, then have I not reason to love you so dearly as I do, to make you hateful in his sight, that I might more freely enjoy you?
Why, let us be gone, my kind Lemot, and not be wondered at in the open streets.
I'll go with you through fire, through death, through hell. Come, give me your own hand, my own dear heart, this hand that I adore and reverence, and loath to have it touch an old man's bosom. Oh, let me sweetly kiss it.
He bites.
Out on thee, wretch! He hath bit me to the bone! Oh, barbarous cannibal! Now I perceive thou wilt make me a mocking stock to all the world.
Oh, come, leave your passions. They cannot move me. My father and my mother died both in a day, and I rung me appeal for them, and they were no sooner brought to the church and laid in their graves, but I fetched me 2 or 3 fine capers aloft, and took my leave of them, as men do of their mistresses at the end of a galliard. Besos los manos.
O brutish nature, how cursed was I, ever to endure the sound of this damned voice.
Well, and you do not like my humour, I can but be sorry for it. I bid you for a good will, and if you accept it, so. If no, go.
Villain, thou didst it in contempt of me.
Well, and you take it so, so be it. Hark you, madam, your wisest course is even to become Puritan again, put off this vain attire, and say, I have despised all, thanks, my God, good husband, I do love thee in the Lord. And he, good man, will think all this you have done was but to show thou couldst govern the world, and hide thee as a rainbow doth a storm. My dainty wench, go, go. What, shall the flattering words of a vain man make you forget your duty to your husband? Ay, repent, amend your life. You have discredited your religion forever.
Well, wretch, for this foul shame thou putst on me, the curse of all affection light on thee.
Go.
And exit Florilla.
Go, Habakkuk, go. Why, this is excellent. I shall shortly become a schoolmaster, to whom men will put their wives to practice. Well, now will I go set the queen upon the king, and tell her where he is, close with his wench, and he that mends my humour, take the spurs. Sit fast, for by heaven, I'll jerk the horse you ride on.
And exit Lemot. Okay, this is raising interesting questions about what Lemot is doing, because now it's trying to almost fashion him like a, as Marston will do later, as a sort of person out here to actually test people and to be drawing their hypocrisy out of them, of which I'm not wholly buying. But I don't know. How are people in the room feeling about that? We open obviously with sort of follow on from the previous scene with lots of people running off, and action before we have this sustained little exchange between Florilla and Lemot. I'll go to Rachael first.
No, I was just going to say about Beso las manos. I feel like that's a stage direction. Like, it could be dialogue, but I have a feeling that that's stage direction.
But why? I mean, does the whole cast know Spanish? I mean, it just means goodbye.
I don't know. Maybe it's just because in this, whatever, even though it's attached to the other dialogue, it's in italics, but I mean, it's not like in a form in Spanish, I guess that would be like imperative, but just it's a lot that it's los, not sus manos or something. I don't know.
No, it's just I kiss my hands to you. I mean, it means goodbye, really.
Okay.
And yeah, maybe even, you know, he's using it as a phrase in a slightly mocking way within the context of the scene. Alan.
Yeah, I think it is mockery. I think basically Lemot is a very fluid character and will use a grab bag of quotations from anywhere he can find them to try and make himself look better.
Eric, then Elizabeth, then Briony.
Yeah, I forgot to unmute myself, of course. I was just going to draw attention to the fact that this is a change of scene because Lemot had, or Lemot or whatever, had told in the previous scene the boy or someone to lock the doors or basically lock them out of the building and not let anybody in, though the dinner... Yeah, no, he told Jaques to shut the doors, let nobody come in. But then it sounds like they're outside.
Yeah, so this scene's outside from where we were. So as they shut the door, that effectively now places us outside. Yes.
But then that means they have dinner off stage and then they go outside and get locked out. Is that what happens? I'm a bit confused.
I'm sure he just went out the back way or something. Lemot will find an exit. He's probably cased out a few windows to climb through to make sure he can get to his next bit of stage business. I'll go to Elizabeth, Briony, then Alan.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly say that I thought it was really funny when Lemot bit Florilla. I didn't expect him to do that, and it kind of changed the tone of the scene quite quickly.
Yeah, because we've gone from them doing flirty, and we were sort of talking about, you know, how far in is Florilla with Lemot, how much is Lemot in with Florilla, and here he really plays his hand, you know, this quite literally, or her hand, and yeah, goes to Bitey, and then he just he's trying to play the you know, morality card, and he's going, well, that's an interesting card to play here at this point, but then maybe I'm misreading the scene. Briony.
Yeah, I don't really understand it, because I totally thought it was going to be some sort of, you know, he's going to lead her on to a point where she's going to publicly, or at least in front of her husband, you know, be outed, but he's just fairly privately bitten her hand and told her that she's, you know, naughty, and that's that.
So what is his game plan here? Alan, then Lois.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing is that all of those that we've just seen are people who were not within the ordinary within the previous scene, so logically outside. And as you say, Lemot's nipped out the window or nipped out of the back door, probably with a substantial backhander to one of the waiting staff.
And or for that matter, Lemot isn't on that side of the door when it's shut. He might be saying "shut the doors" as he actually effectively pops outside, because he's saying it to the servant. So it might be, lock everyone in. I'll be back in a minute. Lois.
Yeah, you know, when we were reading Every Man in His Humor, there was always this feeling of, you know, what's the motivation of these two guys that just think it's terribly funny to put a lot of weird people together and then laugh at them. But I mean, compared to Lemot, those two are perfectly sane and rational. I mean, Lemot just seems to have a passion for creating trouble, and his behavior here is appalling. I mean, surely everybody's now hoping that something terrible is going to happen to him.
Yes, we've been creeping in that general direction since much of yesterday. I think the room has definitely starting to lose patience with Lemot to a degree. Lynn.
Yes, appalling is the word, isn't it? I mean, maybe he's supposed to be a character who is he's just doing this to help to hold a mirror up to people so they can see their flaws and do better. But that's not how he's coming across. I mean, the whole biting thing strikes me as a little sadistic. That's kind of gross. And then when she gets very upset about that, he's like, yeah, your emotions, save it, because I buried my mother and my father in the same day and I danced out of the church. Ew.
Well, who was discussing sociopaths the other day? Was it you? We were talking about the. Oh no, it might have been an evening session. We were different sociopaths. Yeah, that question about motivation. People who basically rewrite their own their own narrative as they go along and just live it in that moment is a very sociopathic thing to be doing. So hey, maybe there's a trail of anyway. Francis, then Rachael.
Yeah, I know on the face of it, biting a woman's hand is, it's repulsive. But I'm wondering just how hard the bite was. I mean, did he sink his teeth in? I doubt it, even though she says, you have bitten me to the bone or something. It seems to me, given his character, it's more likely a sort of gentle nip, as it were. And she's slightly overreacting. I'm not getting away from the fact that it's an extremely unpleasant thing to do, but I don't think he's actually drawn blood or anything.
It is also a comedy, so we should decide on how far we push this moment. It is the darkest moment of the play that we've had so far, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a question of whether we should push in that direction or whether we tone it down. Briony. Oh no, sorry, Rachael, then Briony.
No, I was mine is a vocab question. But I also like what Francis was just saying, playing with the levels of that kiss. Is he just being more sexually aggressive, which is also creepy, as opposed to, I guess, physically violent? I don't, even though there's a cross section there, which would be problematic, or is it just like, I don't know, something that's lighter flirting, but very aggressive still. But my question was what does Habakkuk mean?
Testament prophet.
Well, it's an Old Testament prophet, but I think he's calling her that because the Puritans like to take Old Testament names anyway. And so he's just, it just means really Puritan in this context, I think.
It was used earlier in the play, and we didn't bring it up then, and therefore I don't think so. I can't find the reference that I had. There might be something more specific beyond that, but yes, broadly speaking, that. Briony.
Yeah, just what Francis was saying made me think about it, and actually, it really wants to be no more than just a playful nip, because a human bite is quite dangerous, to be fair, and given the time and the lack of understanding about hygiene and stuff, I imagine it could potentially even be fatal.
It's a murder attempt in embryo. Eric, then Helen.
I was gonna just comment on Aldrich, the horse you ride on. It just kind of probably because I've been trying to think what other things this place like, and obviously it's not very. There aren't that many similarities with things that we've covered in the recent or distant past, aside from every man and his humors. But it made me think of the Philip Sidney poem that you read on the podcast, because I'm a nerd, I listened to it. There's a whole thing about erotic poetry and horses and stuff, and competing with love on a horse and stuff, which as you can tell, I probably didn't understand the poem very well, but yeah.
Yes, we're talking about Astrophil and Stella there, which is has all sorts of interesting elements that could be applied to any romance or / obsession narrative. Not sure I remember the horse. Anyway, Helen.
Yes, I had been noticing that sentence too, because we've got Lemot giving a small speech to the audience, and I'm looking in this for some sort of motivation for him. I mean, he says he's going to set the queen upon the king. Presumably, the king is going to be close with Martia, and he's going to then bring the queen to see it. Which, considering that his livelihood presumably depends on his being a favorite of the king, and this king doesn't seem to be that good-tempered, does not seem to me to be a good plan. But he then says, "He that mends my humour, take the spurs, sit fast, for by heaven I'll jerk the horse you ride on," meaning, I take it, anybody that gets in my way is dead. But I mean, this is recklessness. This is beyond shit stirring. This is beyond amusing himself and his master. Setting the queen upon the king is very dangerous.
Just a textual note as well. There is an error there. It should be yerk rather than jerk.
Yes. The meaning's more or less the same.
We've got a lot of hands, but I'm going to say hold on to thoughts. We'll throw it in the chat for the moment because we really need to get some more data and move further into the text. So scene 10. Enter my host, Verone. Catalian Blanuel. Haven't seen Blanuel for a while. Berger, Jaques, maid and boy, and we'll see what's going on here. I think we're back indoors in the ordinary.
Well, gentlemen, I am utterly undone without your good helps. It is reported that I received certain ladies or gentlewomen into my house. Now, here's my man, my maid, and my boy. Now, if you saw any, speak boldly before these gentlemen.
I saw none, sir.
Ooh, I may have missed a maid. Someone jump in and be a maid.
Nor I by my maidenhead.
Nor I, I'm a man.
Well, my host, we'll go answer for your house at this time. But if at other times you have had wenches and would not let us know it, we are the less beholden to you.
And exit all of the staff, basically. Berger and Catalian remain.
Peradventure, the more beholding to him. I lay my life, Lemot hath devised some jest. He gave us the slip before dinner.
Well, gentlemen, since we are so fitly met, I'll tell you an excellent subject for a fit of mirth, and if it be well handled.
Why, what is it?
Why, man, Labesha is grown marvellous malcontent upon some amorous disposition of his mistress, and you know he loves a mess of cream and a spice cake with his heart, and I am sure he hath not dined today, and he hath taken on him the humour of the young Lord Dowsecer, and we will set a mess of cream, a spice cake, and a spoon, as the armour, picture, and apparel were said in the way of Dowsecer, which I doubt not, will work a rare cure upon his melancholy.
Why, this is excellent. I'll go fetch the cream.
And I the cake.
And I the spoon.
And exit and come in again.
See where he comes, as like the Lord Dowsecer as may be. Now you shall hear him begin with some Latin sentence that he hath remembered ever since he read his accidents.
Enter Labesha.
Felix quem faciunt aliena pericula cautem. Oh, silly state of things, for things they be that cause this silly state. And what is a thing? A bauble, a toy that stands men in small stead. But what have we here? What vanities have we here?
He is strongly tempted, the Lord strengthen him. See what a vein he hath.
O cruel fortune, and dost thou spit thy spite at my poor life? But, O sour cream, What thinkest thou, that I love thee still? No, no, fair and sweet is my mistress, if thou hadst strawberries and sugar in thee. But it may be thou art set with stale cake to choke me. Well, taste it, and try it spoonful by spoonful. Bitter and bitterer still, but oh, sour cream! Wert thou an onion, since fortune set thee for me, I will eat thee, and I will devour thee, in spite of fortune's spite. Choke I or burst I, mistress, for thy sake, to end my life, eat I this cream and cake.
So he hath done. His melancholy is well eased, I warrant you.
God's my life, gentlemen, who hath been at this cream?
Cream? Had you cream? Where's your cream? I'll spend my penny at your cream.
Why, did you not eat this cream?
Talk not to me of cream. For such vain meat I do despise as food. My stomach dies, drowned in the cream bowls of my mistress' eyes.
Nay, stay, Labesha.
No, not I, not I.
And exits.
Oh, he is ashamed, dear faith, but I will tell thee how thou shalt make him mad indeed. Say his mistress, for love of him, hath drowned herself.
Blood, that will make him hang himself.
And they exit. What a scene. I mean, I'm not sure it's got anything to do with anything, but it's I'll go fetch the cream. I mean, in many ways, this is quite disturbing. Yeah, thoughts of the room, Briony.
You could really, really have some fun with this scene and make the audience so uncomfortable with that cream.
Mm. Yeah.
Oh, I hadn't even. Okay.
Yeah.
Never
Lynn?
mind.
I could.
Yeah, I was kind of on board with, he's pretending to be, he's got this affected melancholy, but you put tasty food in front of him and cream and spice cake does sound kind of good, actually. So I was kind of on board until it's like, oh, next let's tell him that the woman he's in love with has committed suicide. Like, what? Where did that come from? Why do you have to be so creepy, George? Stop it.
Well, I think it's in character with the people, so however extreme it is. Briony.
But he wasn't that happy with the cake. He was saying he was going to kill himself on the cake. He was still melancholy, even with the cream and cake. I don't get it at all.
Yeah, I kind of envisioned him saying, "Oh, I'll eat this if I have to," but then, obviously, really enjoying it.
And then, of course, people come in and going, "Where's my cream?" And it's just going, "What cream? I haven't got any cream. There's definitely no cream here." Yeah. It's that thing of they don't have to go as extreme to say his mistress have drowned herself. They could have gone to something just one step beyond, and that would probably have tipped him over the edge. Bless his cotton socks. Eric, then Rachael.
Yeah, it's very much like, someone has invented death by chocolate, like, those really rich lava cakes that you get in shops and stuff. And it's like, yeah, he's diabetic, or I don't know, something like that. And he's like, I'm going to kill myself with this. I don't know, maybe that's just reading too much into it.
Lactose intolerant.
I shouldn't have this, but I will. Me and most foods. Rachael.
Well, I mean, isn't Verone is the host, so it's like he's got this customer who's coming in and is complaining about all the food, and then is taking another plate and another plate, and maybe is trying to complain his way out of the bill, and he's sick of him, and maybe in the way that people say "go f yourself," they're saying he should go hang himself. Maybe it's something like that, as opposed to as dark as another interpretation would be, that he's here complaining during a rush. Maybe. Maybe that could save it from being so dark.
I don't think it is. I think tonally what they're saying, I don't think it's necessarily an actual plan. We'll find out in a minute. If it's an actual plan to do this, then obviously, yes, it's very dark. If it's just something they're saying in passing, then, yeah, it's fine. We'll find out in a bit. Alan, then Elizabeth, then we'll move on.
Yeah, that sequence almost looks like it's been dropped into the play from somewhere else as being this sketch worked well when we did it last Christmas in Panto. And I think Verone's motivation is he's looking around the room. He's seeing who's the ones with fat purses, and they're the ones who are encouraging him to provide the cream and the other temptations, and thinking, well, fine, I've got another nice learner here.
Elizabeth.
Yeah, I really liked the whole idea of the spice cake and the cream. I think it was really eroticized. I think it was quite funny. I also think it's all to do with the vice of gluttony. It was kind of like a temptation to kind of make the character kind of fall into temptation. And I do love the bit where he says, if thou hadst strawberries and sugar in thee, but thou set there with stale cake to choke me. I really like the idea that he was like, oh, it's nice, but it could be nicer if you added strawberries to it.
Yeah, and one of the things, because we've got so many characters coming at us, we haven't really had time to sort of digest, as it were, what their individual humours are, what their sort of the temptations are, and how they function. And Labesha is one of those sort of peripheral characters we've got quite a lot of material on him actually, and how he interacts with people, and he does seem to be leading. He runs to extremes in the way he interacts with people. So there's something there that this seems to be an extension of. Whether it's a consistent excess is something that we might need to iron out. We'll see. We need to move on to scene 11, and we're going to go back to Lemot and his cunningness, and we're introducing the Queen as well, various lords, etc. And we're also going to be also joining the Countess. So yes, we're going to see where this little thread of the plot is going. Enter the Queen, Lemot, and all the rest of the lords, and the Countess, Lemot's arm in a scarf.
Have at my face with a lame counterfeit humour. Ache on ruled arm, I care not for my pain. I got it nobly in the king's defence, and in the guardians of my fair queen's right.
Tell me, sweet Lemot, how fares the king? Or what my right was that thou didst defend?
That thou shalt know when other things are told.
Oh, Labesha is on stage as well. Lots of people are additionally on stage. Beware.
Oh, keep not the queen too long without her longing.
No, for I tell you, it is a dangerous thing.
Little care, cruel men, how women long.
What, would you have me then put poison in my breath and burn the ears of my attentive queen?
Tell me whate'er it be, I'll bear it all.
Bear with my rudeness then in telling it. For alas, you see, I can but act it with the left hand. This is my gesture now.
'Tis well enough.
Yea, well enough, you say. This recompense have I for all my wounds. And thus, the king, enamoured of another lady, compares your face to hers, and says that yours is fat and flat, and that your nether lip was passing big.
Wicked man! Doth he so suddenly condemn my beauty, that when he married me he thought divine? Forever blasted be that strumpet's face, as all my hopes are blasted that did change them.
Nay, madam, though he said your face was fat and flat and so forth, yet he liked it best, and said a perfect beauty should be so.
Oh, did he so?
I'm just
Why,
going to pause
that
you
was
there. I
right.
apologise. I was wrong earlier. It wasn't Labesha at this point. It should be Labervele. So, Eric,
Oh.
could you step in at this point if you see any of those speech prefixes for Labesha at the moment? It is not that person.
Oh, did he so? Why, that was right, even as it should be.
You see now, madam, how much too hasty you were in your griefs.
If he did so esteem of me indeed, happy am I.
So may your highness be that hath so good a husband, but hell hath no plague to such an one as I.
Indeed, madam, you have a bad husband. Truly then did the king grow mightily in love with the other lady, and swore no king could more enriched be than to enjoy so fair a dame as she.
Oh, monstrous man, and accursed most miserable dame.
But, says the king, I do enjoy as fair, and though I love her in all honoured sort, yet I'll not wrong my wife for all the world.
This proves his constancy as firm as brass.
It doth. Oh, pardon me, my lord, that I mistake thy royal meaning so.
In heaven your highness lives, but I in hell.
When he viewed her radiant eyes again, blind was he strucken with her fervent beams. And now, good king, he gropes about in corners, void of the cheerful light should guide us all.
Oh, dismal news! What, is my sovereign blind?
Blind as a beetle, madam, that a while, hovering aloft, at last in cowshards falls.
Could her eyes blind him?
Eyes, or what it was, I know not. But blind I'm sure he is, as any stone.
Come, bring me to my prince, my lord, that I may lead him. None alive but I may have the honour to direct his feet.
How lead him, madam? Why, he can go as right as you, or any here, and he's not blind of eyesight.
Of what, then?
Of reason.
Why, thou saidst he wanted his cheerful light.
Of reason still I meant, whose light, you know, should cheerfully guide a worthy king. For he doth love her, and hath forced her into a private room, where now they are.
What mocking changes is there in thy words? Fond man, thou murderest me with these exclaims.
Why, madam, 'tis your fault. You cut me off before my words be half done.
Forth, allay the poison of thy tongue.
Another lord did love this curious lady, who hearing that the king had forced her, as she was walking with another earl, ran straightways mad for her, and with a friend of his and 2 or 3 black ruffians more, brake desperately on the person of the king, swearing to take from him in traitorous fashion the instrument of procreation. With them I fought a while and got this wound, but being unable to resist so many, came straight to you to fetch you to his aid.
Why raised you not the streets?
That I forbore, because I would not have the world to see what a disgrace my liege was subject to, being with a woman in so mean a house.
Whose daughter was it that he forced, I pray?
Your daughter, sir.
Whose son was it that ran so mad for her?
Your son, my lord.
Oh, gods and fiends forbid!
I pray, sir, from whom did he take the lady?
From your good lord.
Oh, Lord, I beseech thee, no.
'Tis all too true. Come, follow the queen and I, where I shall lead you.
Oh, wretched queen! What would they take from him?
The instrument of procreation.
And they exit, having repeated the word "instrument of procreation." And it's always tricky with a play where people are sort of lying to each other to actually decipher which elements of this is true and what's going on and how it's all going together. I like the way that the Queen immediately leaps to the first thing that anyone says, so that even before they finish the sentence, that she's going off on a tangent quite nicely. And you actually get the impression that Lemot has to work quite hard here to actually get his point across. Briony, then Lois.
Yeah, you get the impression the Queen is an actor that can do hysterical waterworks at the drop of a hat, because it's almost like she's waiting, and then no, and she's okay for a second, and then and yeah, I could just see it. It'd be such a colourful scene on stage.
Lois.
Yeah, but I think that it's also that classic joke. I mean, a man fell out of an airplane. How unfortunate. Well, he had a parachute. How fortunate. The parachute didn't open. How unfortunate. There was a brook underneath. How fortunate. He missed the... I mean, it's all... You just keep going back and forth on it. I think that's what he's doing, and deliberately raising everybody's hopes and dashing them and so on.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much pointing and play that could be had here. I mean, that's what I'm really quite liking about many of these scenes, is actually that there's so much give and take for actors to play with, to build and construct business to go with it as well. Because you can almost see the blocking for this of just this motion back and forth as the story gets more complicated or confused between storyteller and listener. Lynn, muted at present.
Yeah, I agree with Lois. It's Lemot who's manipulating the situation here. You don't have to use blindness as a metaphor for a loss of reason, but he does that deliberately to get the Queen to panic about her husband is literally visually blind. I mean, he's really jerking everyone around here. And the story of the king gets his the object of his affection in a corner, and then a bunch of men attack him, and then look, I got this wound from defending him. That's completely made up, as far as we know. It's like, so he's really kind of a compulsive liar.
Yeah. Lois and Alan.
Yeah, not only that, but he's apparently left the king in danger of worse than death, with 3 people attacking him to come off and tell this story, and hasn't raised the streets, hasn't got anyone else to help him. I mean, it's completely zany.
Yeah, and they're going for his instrument of procreation. So I mean, there's something at stake here. Alan.
As it were.
I must admit, a thought occurred to me in the previous scene whether the term minion that was applied to Lemot in an earlier scene could actually be paraphrased as licensed fool, and that part of his role within the court is to cause as much chaos as he can get away with without anyone actually dying.
Stephen.
Well, sort of following on from that, I suppose, the mischievous element of it, maybe it's just me, but where it says, could her eyes blind him? Eyes or what it was blinded him? I don't know what portion of her blinded him. And then he, a bit later on, he then starts going on about slightly more obvious matters. But blink and you'll miss it. But it did strike me as being a nicely kind of absurd stroke, licentious joke.
Eric, were you waving?
Yeah, I was gonna say that it's interesting how he uses blindness, because also I can't remember if we've found this in a similar play or something else, where there was a law that you couldn't be a king if you were blind or had some physical impediment or something. I think it was when we were doing the true history of Richard III or something, possibly. Because I remember discussing this about, so in which case, blindness would be a very serious thing. But also it's just sort of the setup is very much like serve and match. It just feels very, very tidy on Lemot's side of things.
Briony.
And I absolutely loved that, of course, who who was it? It was your daughter. And who? Oh, it was your son. I love that element of it as well.
Yeah, who just happened to be in the room because of plot. Right, let's. We have a short scene coming up. We're doing lots of short scenes at the moment. Scene 12. Enter Moren.
Now, was there ever man so much accursed that when his mind misgave him, such a man was hapless to keep him company? Yet who would keep him company but I? O vile Lemot, my wife and I are bound to curse thee while we live, but chiefly I. Well, seek her or seek her not, find her or find her not, I were as good see how hell opens as look upon her.
And enter Catalian and Berger behind him.
We have him, i'faith. Stop thou him there, and I will meet him here.
Well, I will venture once to seek her.
Lord, my lord, come you this way? Why, your wife runs raging, like as if she were mad, swearing to slit your nose if she can catch you.
Exit Berger.
Oh, what shall I do at the sight of her and Hern?
God's precious, my lord, come you this way. Your wife comes raging with a troop of dames like Bacchus' drunken foes. Just as you go, shift for yourself, my lord.
Stay, good Catalian.
No, not I, my lord, I.
Exit Catalian. Enter Jaques.
How now, Jaques? What's the news?
None but good, my lord.
Why, hast not seen my wife run round about the streets?
Not I, my lord. I come to you from my master, who would pray you to speak to Lemot, that Lemot might speak to the king, that my master's lottery for his jewels may go forward. He hath made the rarest device that ever you heard. We have fortune in it, and she in our maid plays, and I and my fellows carry 2 torches, and our boy goes before and speaks a speech. 'Tis very fine, i'faith, sir.
Sirrah, in this thou mayest highly pleasure me. Let me have thy place to bear a torch, that I may look on my wife and she not see me. For if I come unto her sight abruptly, I were better be hanged.
Oh, sir, you shall, or anything I can do for you. I'll send for your wife too.
I prithee do.
And they exit both. So yeah, we've got a lottery coming up, otherwise known as plot device. That has been established there. And yet we've got people generally moving things forward in this little scene. Any thoughts in the room? Rachael, then Elizabeth, and Alan.
This might be obvious to other people, but just that what is it? Was it Berger or is it Catalian? Oh, who says like the Bacchi, that the last scene with Lemot, I wonder if this that last scene is almost like a parody of Greek tragedy, where a messenger comes in and relates all these events that have happened off stage. And if there was maybe some sort of, I don't know if there was something, that they would do to show that it was a parody, or if I don't know what Greek tragedy looked like then or how they would have acted it, but just sending it up, and maybe that would, make the lie that much more obvious or grandiose and hilarious.
I'll go to Lois then, Alan.
I don't think it's exactly happening off stage because it's a lie anyway, but I think, they're telling Moren essentially that he's going to be torn apart if they catch him, because that's what the Bacchi did to everybody they found.
Yes, they're telling this lie this troop of dames it's not going well. So it's elaborating on that. Just on a textual note, it shouldn't be drunken foes. It should be drunken froes, as in a group of women. A couple of minor party quirks like that keep popping up at the moment. Alan.
Yeah, just thinking there is a missing stage direction in the just before the end of that sequence. I think Moren probably hands Jaques a rather fat purse, which will clink.
I'm sure Jaques is handed money at various intervals at any opportunity, and that I think it's the production's job to ensure that the coinage is constantly moving in his general direction.
That one, I think, is a very obvious one because he's being asked a considerable favour.
Okay. We're going to move on, however, because we still have a fair chunk to go. Stuff's moving in a direction. We're getting a sense where that direction is going. Scene 13. Enter the Queen. And helpful stage direction. All that were in before. For more specifically, it should be the Countess Moren, Lemot, Labervele, and Foyes should be here.
This is the house where the mad lord did vow to do the deed. Draw all your swords, courageous gentlemen. I'll bring you there where you shall honour win. But I can tell you, you must break your shin.
Who will not break his neck to save his king? Set forward, Lemot.
Yea, much good can I do with a wounded arm. I'll go and call more help.
Others shall go. Nay, we will race the streets. Better dishonour than destroy the king.
Blood, I know not how to excuse my villainy. I would fain be gone.
And enter Dowsecer and his friend Labervele.
I'll geld the adulterous goat and take from him the instrument that plays him such sweet music.
Oh, rare. This makes my fiction true. Now I'll stay.
Arrest these faithless, traitorous gentlemen.
What is the reason that you call us traitors?
Nay, why do you attempt such violence against the person of the king?
Against the king? Why, this is strange to me.
And enter the king and Martia.
How now, my masters? What weapons drawn come you to murder me?
How fares my lord?
How fare I? Well, but you, in faith, shall get me speak for you another time. He got me here to woo a curious lady, and she tempts me. Say what I can, offer what state I will in your behalf, Lemot. She will not yield.
In faith, my liege, what a hard heart hath she. Well, hark you, I'm content your witch will save your honesty for this once.
Peace, a plague on you, peace. But wherefore asked you how I did?
Because I feared that you were hurt, my lord.
Hurt? How, I pray?
Why hurt, madam? I'm well again.
Do you ask? Why, he told me Dowsecer and this his friend threatened to take away...
To take away? What should they take away?
Name it, madam.
Yeah, I pray you name it.
Why then, thus it was, my liege. I told her Dowsecer and this, his friend, threatened to take away, and if they could, the instrument of procreation. And what was that now but Martia? Being a fair woman, is she not the instrument of procreation, as all women are?
You wicked man!
Go to. You are one of those fiddles too, i' faith.
Well, pardon my minion that has frayed you thus. 'Twas but to make you merry in the end.
I joy it ends so well, my gracious lord.
Say, my gracious lord, is no harm done between my loving daughter and your grace?
No, of mine honour and my soul, Foyes.
The fire of love which she hath kindled in me, being greater than my heat of vanity, hath quite expelled.
Come, Dowsecer, receive your lost wits, with your lost wits, your love, though lost. I know you'll yield, my lord and you, her father.
Most joyfully, my lord.
And I, for her part, I know her disposition well enough.
What, will you have her?
Yea, marry will I.
I'll go and tell Labesha presently.
And enter Jaques and host Verone.
Monsieur Lemot, I pray let me speak with you. I come to you from the Lord Moren, who would desire you to speak to the king for my master's lottery. And he hath my place to bear a torch for. Barefaced he dares not look upon his wife for his life.
Oh, excellent. I'll further thy master's lottery, and it be but for this jest only. Hark you, my liege. Here's the poor man hath been at great charges for the preparation of a lottery, and he hath made the rarest device that I know you will take great pleasure in it. I pray let him present it before you at Verone's house.
With all my heart. Can you be ready so soon?
Presently, and if it like your grace.
But hark you, Lemot, how shall we do for every man's poesy?
Will you all trust me with the making of them?
With all our
hearts.
Why then, I'll go make the posies and bring Labesha to the lottery presently.
And exit Lemot, Verone and Jaques. Before we go to the entrance, we'll just pick apart some of that. So we've got the Lemot Queen Gambit being countered by the King entering with Martia Gambit here, and disentangling, shall we say, the instrument of procreation moment. Before we then go to untangling what's happening with Dowsecer and also the arrival of the plot device, the lottery area. Thoughts from the room, Briony. Remember, we're very near the ending. By the way, we're very near the end.
I was just going to say, I really like the moment, and I think it would still work so well today, and it's the kind of thing you still get in modern plays, of trying to make the Queen say Willie.
You say it. No, you say it. Helen.
Yeah, very, very briefly on the lottery. The way the early modern lottery worked was you created 2 tickets, or you used 2 tickets, and you wrote a little poesy on each, the same poesy on each, so that when one of them went into the drawer and the other one you kept. So when yours would be drawn out and the poesy would be read, and then if it was drawn against a prize, you would say, it's mine, it's mine. I mean, they were silly little things like God give good luck to grocers' wives, or that sort of thing.
God send a good lot for my children and me, which have had 20 by one wife truly. Is a genuine example of the kind of thing that people wrote. Apparently, that didn't actually draw the maximum prize, so that wasn't a particularly high-scoring one. Lois.
But what's the betting that Lamots are all going to be insulting to the people that draw them? They shouldn't be letting him do this.
Yeah. Yes, you can write. Yes, with all our hearts. Yes, no. Because, of course, what good family fun-based entertainment doesn't end with a raffle at the end? So, you know... I'm hoping, the prices are rubbish. Shampoo set. A bottle of wine that literally no one dares drink. Lynn.
Yeah, okay. I'm changing the subject a little from the lottery thing here to the, I actually went on in the scene. Again, I'm having a really hard time understanding what's making people tick. The king at first seems quite annoyed with Lemot that his assignation with Martia didn't pan out, that she steadfastly refused him. So he seems a little irritated with Lemot about that. But just a few lines later, he's like, actually, she's in love with your son, and he's in love with her back. So let's just get them together because nothing happened between us, and I'm good with that. I'll just play the matchmaker. Is that? Am I wrong? What? I just found the resolution of the young love marriage strand a little abrupt and kind of unsatisfying because it's just sort of, here, we'll just fix that.
Lois, then Briony.
I mean, that's more or less what happens, but there is that brief exchange, which is obviously asides between the king and Lemot, where, Lemot's going to fix it and the king is going to, I'll owe you one, I think is what they say, and then they sort of put on this little act of, yes, it's terrible. I was wooing her on your behalf, but it was no use, I mean, it completely gets the king off the hook for courting Martia, and it gets Lemot off the hook, and then they can push Dowsecer and Martia together.
Briony.
Yeah, I was just going to say, did his sudden change of heart in who she should be getting with have any correspondence to when the Queen came on stage? And yeah, I think it was one of those because he escaped trouble. That's fine. Let's cut my losses on that one. At least I'm not in trouble.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and also, I'm going to cut any comedy some slack in its final scene when it comes to tying up if there are physical business that you can do to oil the wheels here, to cover that, which if the king turns around and they're both making out, he might just go, okay, that's fine, or something. I'm just throwing ideas out there, but there's ways and means that you can tidy up those bits and pieces. Let's find out where the rest is going, because obviously we have lots of tendrils flailing about. Let's see if we can wrap them up in a neat little bow. So we've had the exit of various bodies. We now have the entrance. Enter Florilla like a Puritan again, back in her old weak costume from the beginning of the play.
Surely the world is full of vanity. A woman must take heed she do not hear a lewd man speak, for every woman cannot. When she is tempted, when the wicked fiend gets her into his snares, escape like me. For grace's measure is not so filled up, nor so pressed down in everyone as me. But yet I promise you a little more. Well, I'll go seek my head, who shall take me in the gates of his kind arms, untouched of any.
What, madam, are you so pure now?
Yea, would not you be pure?
No, Puritan.
You must be then a devil, I can tell you.
Oh, wife, where hast thou been?
What did I tell you I would be, I pray?
In the close walk thou sayest.
And was I not?
Truly, I know not. I neither looked nor knocked, for Labesha told me that you and fair Martia were at Verone's ordinary.
Labesha, my lord, you're a wise man to believe a fool.
Well, my good head, for my part, I forgive you. But surely you do much offend to be suspicious. Where there is no trust, there is no love. And where there is no love twixt man and wife, there's no good dealing, surely. For as men should ever love their wives, so should they ever trust them. For what love is there where there is no trust?
She tells you true, my lord.
She doth, my liege, and dear wife, pardon this, and I will never be suspicious more.
Why, I say I do.
And enter Lemot, leading Labesha in a halter.
Look you, my liege, I've done simple service amongst you. Here is one had hanged himself for love, thinking his mistress had done so for him. But see, your mistress lives.
And doth my mistress live?
She doth, O noble knight, but not your mistress now.
Oh, 'sblood, but she shall for me or for nobody else.
Now, what a traitor! Draw upon the king?
Yea, or upon any woman here, in a good cause.
Well, sweet Besha, let her marry Dowsecer. I'll get thee a wife worth 15 of her. Wilt thou have one that cares not for thee?
Not I. By the Lord, I scorn her. I'll have her better, if I can get her.
Well, that's well said.
What, madam? Are you turned Puritan again?
When was I the other, pray?
Marry, I'll tell you when. When you went to the ordinary, and when you made false signs to your husband, which I could tell him all.
Cursed be he that maketh debate twixt man and wife.
Oh, rare scripturian, you have sealed up my lips. A hall! A hall! The pageant of the buttery.
Enter with 2 torches, the one of them Moren, then my host. We've got Catalian and the boy, the son of the host. Then his maid, dressed like Queen Fortune, with 2 pots in her hands.
What is he?
This is Verone's son, my liege.
What shall he do?
Speak some speech that his father hath made for him.
Why, is he good at speeches?
Oh, he's rare at speeches.
Fair ladies most tender, and nope, that didn't work. Nobles most tender, and gentles whose wits be scarce.
My host, why do you call us nobles most slender?
And it shall please your grace, to be slender is to be proper, and therefore where my boy says nobles most slender, it is as much to say fine and proper nobles.
Yea, but why do you call us gentles whose wits are scarce?
To be scarce is to be rare, and therefore, whereas he says gentles whose wits be scarce, it is as much to say gentles whose wits be rare.
Well, forward, trunchman.
Fair ladies whose most tender, and nobles most slender, and gentles whose wits be scarce, Queen Fortune doth come with her trump and her drum, as may appear by my voice.
Come hither. Are you a schoolmaster? Where was Fortune queen? Of what country or kingdom?
Why, sir, Fortune was queen over all the world.
That's a lie. There's none that ever conquered all the world but Master Alexander. I'm sure of that.
Oh, rare, Monsieur Labesha. Who would have thought he would have found so rare a fault in a speech?
I'll alter it, if it please your grace.
No, 'tis very well.
Father, I must begin again. They interrupt me so.
I beseech your grace, give the boy leave to begin again.
With all my heart, 'tis so good we cannot hear it too often.
But I think we'll pause before the boy gets going again. It's definitely further on in time when, in the past, we have looked at Ben Jonson's Christmas is Mask. You get the impression that Jonson's paid attention to this, and that this is very well rooted comedy shtick, but it's nicely done. Yes, randomly we've got a mask or some sort of entertainment thing is happening for reasons, because there's a king, you've got to keep him entertained, he'll get bored. Florilla has turned up and is reconciled, broadly speaking, with her husband. In the sense, the husband has never really known that they're not reconciled, so it's just a sort of thing, and just Lemot's so far keeping mum, so there's an interesting tension perhaps in the air, and Labesha in a halter. So that throwaway line we were talking about earlier does actually lead to something in the text. Lynn.
Yeah, I think I'm finally beginning to get an angle, a way into the king's character. Although he seemed to be like cranky or hungover when he's like, hang that trumpeter. I think maybe he's kidding there too. Maybe he's just sort of, everything's a joke to him. He's king, he doesn't have to take anything seriously. I mean, it's like a little like the Holy Roman Emperor in Amadeus. Well, there it is. I don't have to deal with this. Everything's a joke to me. And maybe that's why he and Lemot kind of get along. It's like everything's a joke to them. So, oh, well, it didn't work out with this woman that I was hitting on. Oh, well. And this cute little boy is trying to say a poem, and he's kind of mucking it up, and we keep interrupting him, and we're being insulted, maybe intentionally, maybe not. Oh well, haha. So that's the king. It's like nothing matters. Everything's a joke because I'm king.
And yes, and it's a comedy, and everyone's sort of ticking along. So yeah, I'm with that. Eric.
I do like how Verone basically massages it, so it's like, yeah, no, it's not that you're not intelligent, my gentle men, and women, and people, but you know, it's just that your wits are rare. It's rare to find people like you. Yeah. Also, I did enjoy the boy going, they're interrupting me. It's not fair.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just. I'm starting from the top. I'm not just going to keep going. Rachael.
The boy saying that, it reminds me of that, I think one of the Lord Mayor's shows from a while back where somebody described the children as singing just terribly, and like describing the terribleness of their acting or something. I guess I don't know. I just thought back on that and thought it was funny that this is, obviously a kid who, it's like going to see just like a children's play or something, and they're all doing the whatever, but in front of the king.
Yeah, it's how weird and this entertainment that comes out of nowhere, really. And it's just it's like they're not that interested in tying up any of the plot threads, because it's not like we really care about whether any of the plot. I don't really. Does anyone really care whether anyone gets together or lives happily ever after? They're just stuff happening. Okay, let's continue probably to the end now. Boy, take it for the third time. Will you get to the end of your speech?
Sure.
Fair ladies most tender, and nobles most slender, and gentles whose wits are scarce, Queen Fortune doth come with her fife and her drum, as doth appear by my voice. Here is fortune good, but ill by the rude, and this naught but good shall do you, sir, dealing the lots out of our pots, and so good fortune to you, sir.
You, my liege, how that he that carries the torch trembles extremely.
I warrant 'tis with care to carry his torch well.
Nay, there's something else in the wind. Why, mine host, what means thy man Jaques to tremble so?
Hold still, thou knave. What? Art thou afraid to look upon the goodly presence of a king? Hold up for shame.
Alas, poor man, he thinks it's Jaques' man. Poor lord, how much is he bound to suffer for his wife?
Hark you, mine host, what goodly person is that? Is it Fortune herself?
I'll tell your majesty in secret who it is. It is my maid, Jaquina.
I promise you she becomes her state rarely.
Well, my liege, you were all content that I should make your posies. Well, here they be. Every one give Master Verone his 5 crowns.
There's mine, and the Queen's.
There's ours.
And there is mine and Martia's.
Come, Labesha, thy money.
You must lend me some, for my boy has run away with my purse.
Thy boy? I never knew that thou hadst.
Had not I a boy 3 or 4 years ago, and he ran away?
And never since he went thou hadst not a penny? But stand by, I'll excuse you. But Sirrah Catalian, thou shalt stand on one side and read the prizes, and I will stand on the other and read the posies.
Content, Lemot.
Come on, Queen Fortune. Tell every man his posy. This is orderly. The king and queen are first.
Come, let us see what goodly posies you have given us.
This is your majesty's. At the fairest, so it be not Martia.
A plague upon you. You are still playing the villain with me.
This is the Queen's. Obey the Queen. And she speaks it to her husband, or to Fortune, which she will.
A prize. Your Majesty's is the sum of 4 shillings in gold.
Why, how can that be? There is no such coin.
Here is the worth of it, if it please your grace.
What's for me?
A heart of gold.
A goodly jewel.
Count Labervele and Florilla.
What's my posy, sir, I pray?
Marry this, my lord. Of all Fortune's friends that hath joy in this life, he is most happy that puts sure trust in his wife.
A very good one, sir. I thank you for it.
What's mine, I pray?
Marry this, madam. Good fortune, be thou my good fortune bringer, and make me amends for my poor bitten finger.
Who bit your finger, wife?
Nobody. 'Tis a vain posy.
Blank for my Lord Labervele, for his wife a posy, a pair of holy beads with a crucifix.
Abomination idol, I'll none of them.
Keep them thyself, Verone. She will not have them.
Dowsecer and Martia, I have fitted your lordship for a posy.
Why? What is it?
Ante omnia una.
And what is mine, sir?
Serious one, I warrant you. Change for the better.
It's not amiss.
A prize. Dowsecer hath Caduceus, or Mercury's rod, of gold set with hyacinths and emeralds.
What is for Martia?
Martia hath the 2 serpents' heads set with diamonds.
My host Verone?
What? Is he in for his own jewels?
Oh, what else, my liege? 'Tis our bounty, and his posy is, to tell you the truth, in words plain and mild, Verone loves his maid, and she is great with child.
What? Queen Fortune with child? Shall we have young fortunes, my host?
I am abused, and if it please your majesty,
The maid says.
I'll play no more.
No, faith, you need not now. You've played your bellyful already.
Stand still, good Jaquina. They do but jest. Yea, but I like no such jesting.
Come, great Queen Fortune, let's see your posies. But, madam, alas, your ladyship is one of the last.
What is my posy, sir, I pray?
Marry, madam, your posy is made in the manner and form of an echo, as if you were seeking your husband and Fortune should be the echo, and this you say, where is my husband hid so long unmasked? Masked, says the echo, but in what place, sweet Fortune? Let me hear. Here, says the echo.
There you lie, echo, for if he were here, we must needs see him.
Indeed, sweet king, there methinks the echo must needs lie. If he were here, we must needs see him. 'Tis one of them that carries the torches. No, that cannot be neither. And yet, by the mass, here's Jaques. Why, my host, did you not tell me that Jaques should be a torch-bearer? Who is this?
And they unmask Moren.
God's life, my lord!
An you be gentlemen, let me go.
Nay, come your way. You may be well enough ashamed to show your face. That is a perjured wretch. Did not you swear, if there were any wenches at the ordinary, you would straight come home?
Why, who told you, madam, that there were any there?
He that will stand to it, Lemot, my liege.
Oh, I stand to it? Alas, I told you in kindness and goodwill, because I would not have you company long from your husband.
Why, hello, you bird. How much you are deceived.
Why, wherefore were you afraid to be seen?
Oh, I afraid? Alas, I bore a torch to grace this honorable presence, for nothing else, sweet bird.
Thanks, good Moren. See, lady, with what wrong you have pursued your most enamored lord. But come, now, our friends, now is this day spent with unhurtful motives of delight, and overjoys more my senses at the night. Now, for Dowsecer, if all will follow my device, his beauteous love and he shall married be. And here I solemnly invite you all home to my court, where with feasts we will crown this mirthful day, and vow it to renown.
And they all live happily ever after. Lois.
Yeah. Did I miss the bit where Collinet drowned himself or something? I mean, he was a suitor to Martia in the first section that I read, and he seems to have vanished from the play. I mean, what happened?
There's quite a bit of material from that first third which just seems to have got dropped in the way that we also have Dowsecer turn up randomly in the second third. So yeah, I think that he started writing it and then the play went in a different direction.
Yeah.
I think there is some editorial work to be done to tweak that. Also, if nothing else, to just slightly draw down the number of characters, because some of those early ones do not go anywhere, and could be refined. I think there's also overall now noticing that there are some inconsistencies in character as we go along as well that need to be tweaked. But yes, let's talk about the raffle. It's I've the number of village hall shows where at the end get the tombola out, and it's sort of like that. Lois was right. Yes, we get sort of meaning posies here. I think they could have been a bit nastier actually, or a bit tighter. They're a bit vague. I think the only one that really lands is probably Florilla's and her husband's. That a bit from Martia's as well. That's quite nice. So yeah, thoughts in the room. People have been waving. I'll go with Briony first, then Eric.
Sorry, just about what you were saying there. Did Verone get one, or was it just a random insult that he got when he basically said that Verone's got the made up stuff? Was that not part of the raffle? Was that just random abuse?
No, Verone gets a ticket because they question that. Is he really getting a ticket in his own raffle?
I think Lemot is probably just generally stirring things around again. If he's introduced a couple of rogue tickets, wouldn't surprise me.
Oh.
Mm. Yes, I do like the line that we've got there. Oh look, it's the king and queen win first. Oh, how did that happen? It's not rigged at all.
Whole deck of cards up his sleeve.
Eric.
So the moral of the story is the boy doesn't get a raffle ticket, and also the if you trust your partner, you will never know if they're telling the truth.
I don't think it's in a sense that all the partners are partnered off and no harm has occurred. I think I mean yet, but
they lied.
Little lies. The ones that keep the oil of the wheels of life turning, kind of thing. I don't look for a moral
or motivation.
What was the other thing? Yeah, the whole thing of the Helen was right. Does look like Verone and the maid. Were it may not be true. It may just be what everyone's thinking. But that seems to be something going on there.
I think that was fairly obvious from I think one of Jaques' comments yesterday. That was one of the worst kept secrets in the house.
And I like the way the Countess and the Count at the end are tidied up. That's quite nicely done, especially when the King goes, "Who told you there were any ladies at the place where I wasn't at?" Everyone's covering their backs, so they're covering each other's backs as well. That's quite a nice little turnaround. Alan.
I think one of the major issues that would need to be decided for a production of this is what the hell is Lemot's motivation? Because he's like a blob of mercury. You can't pin him down anywhere.
Yeah, or if he has, it is a case he doesn't sort of clearly express, or he doesn't clearly express anything very early on. So you just kind of think he's being a bit of a rake and a bit of a git, and then later on, it's like he's that question of he's the sort of all-purpose, he's there to make things entertaining for the king, I think taking a view is important for a production. Briony.
I like just the fact that he put the little callback to the biting in the posy. That was nice.
Yeah. So something that literally no one else will understand, and and when someone's asked, what's all that about then? And it's like, nothing. Can't see anything. Nothing wrong with my hand. Elizabeth muted at the moment. Then Alan.
A quick question. One of the characters receives a Caduceus. What is a Caduceus?
Mercury staff.
Yeah, I think it is glossed in the next bit, but people may be able to say in more detail. Lois, did you have thoughts?
Well, a Caduceus is a staff with two serpents wound around it, and it's the symbol of Aesculapius, isn't it? I mean, it's the symbol of the doctors.
Medicine,
but also of Mercury.
Yeah, and of Mercury, yeah.
Maybe he's trying to say he's mercurial or something. I don't know.
Alan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, actually, a thought just occurred to me. If this was done as a part of the 12th Night Rebels, whether actually Lemot is the Lord of Misrule figure that appears in pieces around that time.
Nice.
Yeah. I also quite like the idea that Florilla is given some rosary beads. It's for a Puritan. It's just like the worst prize ever. Okay, so we finished relatively early, but. Now that we've got a sort of sense for those who've been here for the week, or at least a reasonable percentage of the week, that question of the play overall, as a comedy, I think it does actually manage to land reasonably well. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's got a lot of really good set pieces. There's a lot to play with. I think there's a lot for actors to get their teeth into. So yeah, thinking about what we might do with this, it feels like this is one of those plays that really needs to be done on stage. It doesn't feel like something that Zoom is liking, because it's so fiddly and complicated. And things we might need to do with it to perk it up. We've already vaguely mentioned that some characters sort of need stripping away or eliding into others, and there's some business that maybe works better than others. But then there might be other more fundamental problems that I'm just scootling past. But yeah, the question of how do we deal with humours today as well, as we're gathering plays with humours more generally. Maybe we need to have a line of thought on what we might do with that. So thoughts from the room, final thoughts from the room. Anyone who wants to leap in first before I start picking on people as we move on. I'll go to Helen first. Any final thoughts about the play overall?
I think I like it. I'm not 100% sure, but I think I like it very much. I think there's a lot. I think it's got an enormous amount of potential, but I would still repeat what I said yesterday. I mean, today hasn't been as bad, but yesterday I felt that you could not appreciate it read on Zoom. That today wasn't so bad, but nevertheless, I think it's a play with a lot of potential. Certainly some of the characters need to be merged just for simplicity's sake, if nothing else. And yeah, I'd go for this one.
I have to say it's that workshopping with the characters element that's interesting me at the moment, because there are some characters that sort of only are there vaguely. They might have a little set piece moment, but then they're not really around very much. Like Dowsecer, who's is sort of plot important, but only has one set piece scene, and then he's in some other scenes, and it's just wondering whether there's something to be done there, and with some of the other elements as well. Lynn, you've been reserving judgment, I believe. Any final thoughts from you? It's that question of is it to our individual tastes, but also is it to some people's tastes as well? Is there a market that this might specifically land on? And other thoughts?
Well, yes, I agree with those of you who have expressed the need to cut, to trim, to conflate, to streamline. Yes, that needs to be done fairly ruthlessly. Colonette, he can go. The bit about Catalian dressing up as a priest's clerk and pretending to apply to be Florilla's personal chaplain, that never goes anywhere. That needs to disappear. The stuff in the tavern, which is just sort of funny, but doesn't forward the plot, that maybe needs to be not cut completely, but trimmed down. But I think I ended up liking it better than here on day 3 than I did on the first 2 days, where I was just sort of confused. I really like Alan's take on Lemot as a Lord of Misrule. I think that helped me a lot to just sort of get away into that character. Like, who is he? He's a Lord of Misrule. Okay, that helps me just sort of accept him. And there's something about the way that this ends that kind of won me over. The device of the little poems. I just really like that. There's something very meta-literary about it, or meta-theatrical about it. A playwright is a kind of poet, and now the poet is having a character poet write poems about the characters. By the way, audience, it's just literature. It's just a poem. It's just poesy. Something about the way that is staged in that device of the poetry really helped me go, yeah, okay, this is what we're doing. Maybe that's the literature lover in me that was so charmed by that. But yeah, it ended up working for me better than I would have anticipated 2 days ago.
And it's interesting on the point of cuts. I mean, this is not a long play, but we've stretched it out a bit to be over 3 sessions. So, in terms of saying, okay, it's a comedy, we want to keep it, fleet of foot, there isn't necessarily that much to take out. But there's definitely stuff you want to spend a lot of time and attention on, making sure that it definitely is funny today, and if it's not, then be ruthless. And that tavern, the scene in the Ordinaries got some wonderful stuff and wonderful potential for physical comedy business, but then it does get very bogged down towards the end of the scene with very specific, and this person, I will make them speak as I will be their puppet master sequence, which might actually workshop be hilarious, but off the page it felt laboured. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think particularly that scene 8, which was the long scene in the Ordinary, is incredibly physical, and would need to be very tightly rehearsed to make sure that one worked. yes, I think there is room for the removal or conflation of certain characters who seem to have been in the original, maybe in the first draft, and he just ran out of ideas of what to do with them. You know, which you could probably trim probably 4 or 5 characters out of the thing in that way, without doing serious damage. Dowsecer, you obviously need to make the main plot work, and it depends whether you want to take the in-joke, the theatrical in-joke of where he may be derived from. Whether that stays in or not would depend on your take on the overall direction of the production.
Yeah, because we were saying that we've got these sort of peripheral characters at the beginning, Blanuel and Collinet, who are there to sort of demonstrate and set up the humours thing, and then the humours thing sort of gets a little lost as we go along. It sort of pops up every so often, and one wonders if there were more little set pieces like this that might have been in the earlier, the first preview, and then going, oh, we can drop that bit. Oh, but no, everyone loves the Collinet bit. Oh, we'll keep it in. It's fine. The actor likes it, and there's messy compromises in it, which again, I like that sort of potential in a script. That maybe actually you give it to an actor and suddenly go, oh no, it really works, and it's fine. Francis, you missed the ordinary. How's it landing for you? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think missing the ordinary, missing yesterday, didn't serve me very well, because I've been a bit baffled today, I have to say. It's such the scenes are so random in lots of ways, as people have said. But like you say, Rob, there are some good things in it, and I think it's a play I'd rather watch, or better still, be performing in, because there's some good comedy stuff in it. And what happened to Blandwell?
He's been on stage. We've
right.
had some entrances. I just don't think he had any dialogue today.
Oh right, I missed that.
Yeah, because when I read a stage direction of he entered at one point, I went, oh, hang on, I haven't given him out, and there was a reason for that. He didn't say anything. So yeah, the poor actor presumably still popped on. He had his costume, got paid, but after his initial. And Blanuel is an interesting character, because actually most of his dialogue is just to say what the person before him said. So he doesn't even have to learn very much. It's my kind of part. Hate learning lines. Briony, any final thoughts?
Normally I struggle a lot when I miss a session. I hate to miss a session when you're doing a play over several. But actually this one's quite random, and because it was the first one that I missed, I didn't struggle as much as I normally would at all. I don't think Blanuel said anything yesterday either, because I don't remember him. Don't remember Collinet at all. So yeah, just missed those entirely. Did he say a little tiny bit? Fair enough. He wasn't very memorable in amongst everything yesterday. But yeah, just there's some horrible characters, which is what I love. There's some meat on them. There's some angles to play that would be really fun as an actor. I think there's some massively workshoppable stuff. I mean, you could take some of these things and do them at a dinner party. That the posies game, things like that, that's so usable. Or trying to work out if you can say or do something to make one of your friends say, something like an exact phrase that I wonder if you could actually make that work in real life with people. But yeah, definitely very actor workshoppable. And it was just quite light and fun. Nobody lost their tackle. The stakes weren't as high as they seemed at one point. It was all right.
Yeah, I like the idea of thinking it almost as a series of games that you actually, that's how you workshop the scenes, is actually say, right, what games are we playing in this scene? Elizabeth, coming in late in the day. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Francis and with Briony that the play feels quite random. There's kind of, but I think that's intended by the playwright actually, for it to be a part of the humor of it. I think it's a play of dynamics. So I'm kind of a bit wary of cutting characters or conflating them, because I've got a sense that there's a lot of coming and going on the stage. There's a lot of dynamics with the dialogue, which is very, very funny. So I enjoyed the last session, and I got a strong sense of the text and the playwright style in this. I really liked the lottery. I loved the whole instrument of procreation scene, and the cream and the spice bun was very memorable.
Yes, that's such a weird scene. I love that. And I do like the defending the sometimes random characters are still valuable, and you know, because there's actually now much more of a sense of actually how doubleable it could be, with people who appear primarily at the end and people who appear primarily at the beginning and people who might just be popping in and out. That actually, if you've got a fleet of foot production, you could keep a lot of those characters, but maybe restrict as to precisely when they appear. Rachael, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think characters like Collinette and Chaplain, I think the Chaplain, I can't remember his name besides that he was just there for, if he did have a name, just for Florilla. Maybe just to establish her character, and maybe the arc of that character is slightly different, that Lemot is sort of a character that's supposed to chasten her, even though she's a Puritan and she dresses a certain way. You know, maybe we're supposed to think that her husband has some reason to actually be suspicious, and the Chaplain and these other men, you know, she has a whatever sort of relationship with them. And then through Lemot, she becomes this actually, you know, pious or obedient woman. I'm not sure. And that Chaplain is just there to create that suspicion or the, you know, whatever of her character, that it's a thinly veiled affair, perhaps. And then Collinette, I think, is maybe just a sort of story bridge to bring one, you know, A plot into B plot, or B plot into the A plot. I'd like to come back to this in a second look, because there's so much interesting stuff going on that I think that was coming out today, that would come out even more in a second look, and how this play was called Random. How before I was talking about Greek tragedy, I meant neoclassical. If that one scene with Lemot coming in, we as the audience are meant to know he's lying, but the actors within the scene are supposed to treat it truthfully and, you know, take the acting style that actors would take on in a neoclassical play, perhaps. And that randomness of the different scenes of the play, perhaps there's a lot of these scenes are parodies of, you know, other, you know, genres, however loose you could define genre, or of specific plays, and they're meant to be like a parody string. That's why we have Lemot being this character that changes all the time, because he's kind of like I don't know, like a bookended narrative device to guide us through this long series of parodies that we're going through.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Catalian is a character who seems like he's going to be important at the beginning and then isn't, and he's there doing the chaplain business, and then sort of fades off. He vaguely turns up in the ordinary and vaguely is about, but then goes, following on from Collinette. So you're sort of going, well, maybe there's an Elysian that you could do there with those characters, and maybe make that work. I'm keen on actually keeping that Catalian business of that there are several front things heading in the general direction of Florilla, but maybe it isn't necessary. Maybe you can just get straight to the Lemot stuff without the warm up man, as it were. But yeah, Yeah. Who is next? Eric, any final thoughts?
Well, it's definitely more fun than the Fair Maid of Bristow, though that we kind of corpsed at that for different reasons.
I don't know. I think to defend the Fair Maid of Bristow, I suspect it was supposed to be unbelievably stupid.
Yeah. No, it had some funny elements, but like this is just a whole different level of mischief and madness and chaos. But I think it's what we were discussing yesterday as well in chat, if I remember correctly. It's very much like it needs strong performers who know what they're doing. Otherwise, it's like if you miss a cue, it goes off. Like it just drops. And yeah, it kind of wouldn't work with that. I mean, it might be good for amateur companies to cut their teeth on it, but like not so much for other things. And yeah, it's an interesting piece that I would want to see again, just because it's so mad. It's all over the place. Yeah, I don't know. There's part of me going to, it's not quite so bad as other comedies from this era. Yeah,
it's not hitting us with horrible, problematic things over the head. There are occasional moments, but otherwise it actually lands reasonably well, which makes life a lot easier. And certainly in terms of the idea of returning to this text, I'm thinking much more picking individual scenes or sections and workshopping them rather than necessarily going for a full second look as anything as a priority. Because I think I'm with Helen on the sense that the text itself, it would resist a zoom fast run. I think it's almost like we need to get back into rooms again. One day it will happen. But until then, there's definitely individual moments or scenes that we could definitely workshop in detail and really pull out the funny in prep. Lois, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I found listening to other people quite helpful on this, partly because I missed yesterday's session, although I did skim through the relevant bit, because I'd been thinking this is just such a totally sort of who cares type of play. But I think the only really tricky bit is the romantic plot, which obviously he just felt he had to get in there, get somebody actually married at the end. The rest of it, I don't know, two things strike me. One is just that the Lord of Misrule character has a name that means word, and it really is all about words and what words can do, and what he can do with words. And the other is that it's almost as if he were a marriage counselor, I suppose. I mean, the plot that isn't about getting married is about three couples, all of whom he stirs up and then somehow gets back together at the end. And I don't know what the arc of this is, whether you're supposed to get a feeling that having been thoroughly messed up in their relationship and then told lies to make them feel better about it, they will somehow have a happier marriage from this point on. But there seems to be something going on there. I mean, I think the most interesting bit is the Florilla story. What's kind of weird about it is the way that Dowsecer suddenly appears, and because in a sense the whole problem of procreation and getting an heir for her husband turns out to be irrelevant since he's already got one. Although I suppose the point is that if his son marries at the end, then he will have heirs anyway, whatever Florilla does. But there is what I find very interesting is that Florilla comes back on as a Puritan at the end. There's no attempt to kind of get her out of that. And I don't know, I think it'd be quite interesting to do that particular story, just try to figure out what's going on in that plot. I mean, the others, the Moren one doesn't seem to be terribly interesting. Nothing much happens in that. And then the king and queen are just sort of there. And insofar as there is anything that one could actually get interested in, I think it's probably in the Florilla relationship.
Because it keeps throwing us different things as we're going along. I think the overall shape is actually quite good about the way the action flows. There's part of me that's worried about doing this with an interval. Actually, if you put an interval in, you might kill the flow dead, and you give people time to think. You don't want that to happen. It's the placement of that scene in the ordinary, which feels so pivotal That's where sort of you almost get farcical elements. It doesn't go fully into farce following that, which was where we were sort of set up last time. Like everyone's at the ordinary, the Countess is angry, these people are turning up, and we sort of got a little scene at the beginning of this session where people popped in and out like shotguns, and then that didn't really go anywhere, and we sort of did some other stuff. So it's but the overall shape of those narratives does sort of just hang together. It's not quite as random as you think it is, but it is quite random, and there's a lot of room for randomness. Alan?
One thing that struck me is that this doesn't really seem to me to be a play of the humours in the way that we had with Everyman in his humour the other day. It almost feels like he maybe started off intending to do something about the humours, and then just got diverted. Oh, well, actually, I'm quite enjoying this almost farcical setup of who's chasing who's stirring trouble up, and the humours thing sort of dropped by the wayside.
Yes, because they really make heavy weather of it in the second scene, the popping the word humour in left, right, and centre. But also, a sense of this being around about a time of this idea of humours being played with, and again, it's that question of the gap between it being first performed and it being printed. Maybe there's certain elements that fell by the wayside that they didn't need to over elaborate, because by then everyone knew what humour was, and you keep some of the early stuff because you can't get rid of it. I don't know. Stephen, you've only been here for this session. What is
well, not a lot to add, really. I mean, obviously, I can't comment on most of the things people have been saying. As some of the previous commentators, I pick up on a great deal of energy here. The only thing I would say is it seems from the bit I've read that whoever wrote it has got a really quirky, interesting imagination. I like some of the twisty stuff there. I like some of the subtleties. It reminded me a little bit. There's a book on Ben Jonson by Anne Barton where she talks about Jonson rummaging in the great lumber room of his imagination. It's this kind of like this attic where all this kind of stuff, is coming out. And I kind of got that from it. I got a real imaginative energy, which obviously I guess can't be from the plot, but it's from sort of commedia-like little scenarios that we've got here, which are kind of all leading towards a kind of mad world, everything piling in at the end. So imagination and energy, 2 thumbs up.
Excellent. And with that, as we've overrun somehow on a play that underran, we had so much to say. Thanks to all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Bye. Mad and melancholy as a cat.